Welcome back to the YS channel. Um, where our channel is simply dedicated to revealing the art of cinema, from the obscure to the classics, from the classics, the great masterpieces to the cringe. So today, on our channel, we're going to review another classic from the Canon Group production from the 1980s. A movie so bad it pretty much killed Lou Ferrigno's acting career, or I would say not his career, but his chances of being like an A-list star like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And this movie is Hercules from 1983, directed by the famous bad Italian movie director Luigi Cozzi, who used the alias of Louis Coates for this shitburger of a movie.
That's right, Derek. Hercules is perhaps the oddest retelling of the story of the mythical Greek hero, as the main villain of this movie decides the best way to kill not only Hercules but the Greek gods, as well as through an evil called science. That's right, they use science
They do.
in an attempt to kill Hercules. Not to mention a good chunk of the movie takes place in outer space.
Oh, God. Yeah. Um, in case you haven't already figured this out from our brief intro, this movie's an acid trip. So let us tie a rope to a giant rock attached to a space chariot and hurl this review into fucking outer space.
Hey, well, when we reviewed Invasion USA, that was Canon Films attempting to up the quality, but while being bogged down by stupid shit that made Canon Films known for their incompetence and poor production values. Hercules 1983 is a prime example of Canon at their wars and represents the typical quality their films were known for.
Yeah. I mean, Canon thought by creating a special effects heavy driven movie on a super budget for the time in Italy, it would net them positive results. And they couldn't be any more wrong. So Hercules from 1983 is a throwback to the numerous, I guess, how would you call this sword and sandal genre of movies, which were made famous in the 50s and 60s, which ironically, there was a movie named Hercules that was more accurate to the mythos. That was a classic.
So
The epic.
I hate to interrupt you. They made so many movies about Hercules during the 60s in Italy that that just go on.
Yeah. So, I mean, there has been a couple bangers. I think didn't Charlton Heston play Hercules?
No.
No. Okay. I'm thinking of something else then. But you also had another epic known as Cleopatra. I mean, that one starred Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, and a movie so epic almost bankrupted the Fox movie studios. So the sword and sandal genre was popular for a time, and then faded off into obscurity. So, um, I mean,
So basically what happened when Cleopatra was made. All the vendors that normally supply catering services and other services to the Italian movies production industry. They, after Cleopatra left town, they raised all the prices to match the prices that Fox was paying, and that basically forced the shutdown of the certain stand-up movie in Italy and because Cleopatra basically set a bar so high that average Italian vendor couldn't meet. But
yeah, they
anyway,
said fuck it.
yeah. Anyway, the certain sound movie is to Europe what kaiju movies are to Japan, kung fu
Mm-hmm.
movies to China, and giant radioactive creature movies in the United States. What made this Hercules movie unique to its 60s counterparts is they added a cosmic element to the movie. The gods Zeus, Hera, and Athena rule from the moon. Meanwhile, in a sanctuary in space, the main villain of the movie, King Minos, contacts a deity named Daedalus, who uses her science to create robot mechanical monsters to kill Hercules. The movie begins with a crappy retelling of how the universe and solar system Well, it was made from the fragments of Pandora's jar. Don't ask me if that's actual Greek mythology. It's in the movie. Just watch the movie. Movie. You want to see things so stupid, stupid.
Yeah. I mean, this is a stupid fucking movie. It's an entertainingly stupid movie, but stupid nonetheless. So King Minos or Minos, matter who gives a fuck how you say his name. He's played by William Berger, and this guy might have been the only actor on the set to actually understand the assignment completely. Maybe Sybil Danning too, but William Berger totally he understood what this was. And then he seems to not only understand he was going to be in a crappy movie, but relishes. In fact, one of the reviews we did earlier, maybe about a year ago, it was the 1994 Street Fighter, which who's that guy? The guy that plays M Bison.
Well, Julio.
Yeah, him. Um, he talks about in an interview, he talks about a piece of advice that he got, during his acting career, and it's pretty much like, if you're pretty much every big name actor you know of, it's going to make a shitty movie or two from time to time. But the secret is not to be bad in the shitty movie. You know, that's why his performance stood out so well on that. I mean, similar concept, but this guy's performance was nowhere as legendary. But again, he totally understood what he needed to do. But anyhow, in this movie, King Minos' daughter is played by the famous B movie queen Sybil Danning. Who's pretty much just known for being naked in a lot of her movies. About hard to figure that one out. And then together they plan to sacrifice Hercules' love interest.
Cassiopeia.
Yeah, Cassiopeia. To a volcano in Atlantis.
That's right. That's
Oh god.
right. This movie just keeps getting weirder and weirder. This movie originally was meant to be an R-rated movie with more sex, nudity, and violence in line with the rise of the barbarian movies started by Conan the Barbarian. In fact,
They
Conan
should have
is the
kept it.
reason. Well, in fact, Conan is the reason Hercules was greenlit. When Lou Ferrigno, fresh off from doing the Incredible Hulk TV show, received the offer to star in the movie, he actually threw the script in the trash until it was rewritten to be a more family-friendly affair. But elements of the original screenplay snuck in, such as Sybil Danning's
Ooh.
skimpy costumes and Cassiopeia's fortune sacrifice outfit, which was basically just seashells covering her private areas and ribbons.
Yeah. Um, so directing this shitburger of the movie is the famous Italian director, B movie director, Luigi Cozzi. All right. He's best known for delivering us Starcrash. Not Star Wars, Starcrash, which starred David Hasselhoff. And in that one, he engages in a lightsaber battle with a fucking stop motion puppet robot. He also directed, or pretty much re-edited, the Americanized original Godzilla movie, and that he just added additional World War II footage, and he had it like colored to the film cells or whatever. So the movie is in color, and his claim to fame is he's the first one to do that to a black and white movie. And at the same time, he probably delivered us the shittiest Godzilla movie ever. But other than that, um, he's a legend. Especially, I would say this: his B movies, a lot of them are just ripoffs. I mean, Hercules is really an acid trip ripoff of Conan. I mean, granted, there's a lot of significant differences, and Starcrash was a ripoff of Star Wars, but the guy can direct a movie when he's engaged. Like both of those movies are actually entertaining, and maybe at some point we should do a dive into the Cozzy verse of movies. But I'm getting a little too far off track here. So basically, long story short, he's given the task of directing Hercules, and the budget didn't allow for the proper effects that he wanted to put into the movie. So the reason why a lot of them look a little janky and a lot of it doesn't hold up is he kind of expects us as the audience to use our imaginations to fill in the gaps, which says a lot. I mean, granted, it's a fucking 1980s sword and sandal fantasy action movie set in mostly in space. So I don't know how the fuck you're gonna make that work. But yeah, uh, well, most of the
God.
effects don't even look that well done, even for that time period.
Hmm.
So it was done cheaply and poorly executed. On top of that, and you get Hercules.
Well, basically, basically Luigi Cozzi, how you pronounce his name.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he actually said in the interview and a documentary about canon films that we have an imagination while when viewing bad special effects, like it doesn't matter. Well, I disagree. The special effects in your movie are so shitty, not even your imagination can save it. But anyway, I'm gonna put my 2 cents into this film. Lou Ferrigno, for as we said before, thought this was going to be his chance to join the A-list of actors, more specifically like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone at the time. The problem was Lou Ferrigno, once he got into shape, he was already in shape, but he really got into shape for this movie.
Yeah, you got
Movie,
really ripped.
yeah, he actually looked the part, but the thing is, Lou Ferrigno is deaf or partially deaf, and he has a speech impairment as a result of that. So he was never going to be a true A-list actor with a voice like that. And I'm saying that this as a person with a speech impairment myself, but Lou Ferrigno had his voice dubbed. In fact, in all his Italian movies they made during the 80s, I think the same guy dubbed his voice in most of them. But 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 anyway, Lou Ferrigno was actually upset by this. But at the same time, he wasn't too bothered because what he was doing Hercules, he was also doing another movie back to back called, which was actually a ripoff of the Seven Samurai called the Magnificent Seven Gladiators. And that
Hmm.
movie, I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen like stills and photos of it. Like like if you talk Hercules, which was a cheap production, the Magnificent Gladiators is an even cheaper production, and they actually use much of the same cast from Hercules. Um, like Sybil Danning is in this movie, is in that movie too, and she also dies in it.
Meh.
Dies in it, but Lou Ferrigno, d- d- um, when Hercules came out, it wasn't a huge hit. It made canon films enough money to actually warrant a sequel
Oh
called The
God,
Adventures of
yeah, yeah.
called The Adventures of Hercules, but they made more films together in Italy that are really really bad, and the most infamous of these is Sinbad, a movie that was actually made in 1986, but by the time Canon was ready to edit the movie, they were in financial hardship, and it took them another 2 years before the movie was actually completed. But her Sinbad, I've seen this movie. It is one of the worst movies they ever made. It's also the worst retelling of Sinbad as well. As well, it's a movie so shitty you have to see it to believe it. And if Hercules didn't kill Littlefinger's career, Sinbad did. That
Yeah, I
did,
mean,
but
yeah. Sorry.
sorry, you're good. But after Hercules came out, Lou Ferrigno didn't star in another movie for a year or two, and then he did the sequel to Hercules called The Adventures of Hercules. And you thought Hercules was had poor special effects and all that happy shit. The Adventures of Hercules is an even cheaper ripoff of the previous movie. Like for example, it tries to be its own movie at the same time as sequel to the original. Like none of the Greek gods, none of the actors who played the Greek gods from the first movie returned to play, return to their roles, and and they kind of like retell the origin of Zeus a little bit. Like he has like seven thunderbolts that are stolen from him, and it's up to Hercules to retrieve them all. Oh, and then the movie is best known for the final climax fight scene between King Minos and Hercules, which takes place in fucking outer space, where King Minos becomes a fucking dinosaur and Hercules becomes a gorilla, and they fight to the death. Like they actually rotoscope or drew over animation from King Kong 1933 to achieve this.
That sounds absolutely fucking stupid.
Oh, it is stupid.
We might actually have to review the sequel. That just sounds so magnificent. That reminds me of the final sequence from Mortal Kombat Annihilation, where they turn into those retard fucking computer dragons.
Yeah.
It's so bad, it's funny. Not to disparage on the mentally retarded, but and I think somebody mentally retarded could have come up with something better. But oh god, that sounds awful. So yeah, I mean, this movie, I would say it's worth watching once or twice. Like it's entertainingly bad. It's like it's bad, but like an entertaining way. You know, like if you're a fan of like the Conan and Barbarian movies, I think it was Beastmaster, Master of the Universe. I'm sure there's some other ones out there that I'm forgetting. I think they had one called Barbarians, but you get the point. If you're a fan of that kind of movie, you'll probably enjoy this one. Even for the fact that it's fucking Lou Ferrigno as the Incredible Hulk. Well, the Incredible Hulk plays Hercules. I mean, it's unfortunate this guy was deaf because I mean that's hard. That's a hard impediment to work with when you're on TV a lot, and if he wasn't like a bodybuilder, I mean, I don't know what to say. Now, having watched this movie and understanding like the impediments that Lou Ferrigno has, imagine if they made like a biblical epic at that time, like a sword and sandal epic of like the David and Goliath story. I mean, Lou Ferrigno could have made a good fucking Goliath. You know, I mean, if you think about it, but yeah, Hercules 1983 though. Again, he looked the fucking part. Like there is no like just for somebody for like the on camera, I guess what do you want to call it? Just like for the physical appearance alone, they got the casting right by picking him. Like there's no mistaking. Like that motherfucker's Hercules. But in order to make this movie work, you need somebody that can like emote better and communicate better. I mean, that's one of the issues that hindered Schwarzenegger's career for a bit was like his grasp on the English language and his accent, which ultimately he made those things work in his favor. But at the same time, those are the things that held him back. He was trying to get started in the movie industry. And then for Rigno, he's an even worse actor. Now, don't get me wrong, like he could play the shit out of the Hulk or some big brooding bodyguard type role kind of thing. But anything like beyond that, no. And he eventually understood. So give the man his credit. And other than that, man, I don't have much else to add on to this. Like, if Luigi Cozzi or Cozzi, however you say his name, is still active and making movies, may God stop that man.
Well, well, basically, as we said, there is a sequel to this movie, and it's actually worse than the original Hercules. Hercules, but to give you an insight of the background of this movie, during the 1980s, there was a rise in barbarian films thanks to Conan.
Yeah.
Conan and Hercules, as I said before, was greenlit because of that.
Hmm.
But basically, this very Sanda movie went from being like about Greek mythology, romance, and biblical epics to basically fantasy movies with barbarians wearing basically loincloths and nothing else. Basically, rape and pillage women, and fight even cheaper looking monsters. Like it's like like you have to watch one of these barbarian movies when you have the time because they're really not pretty done cheap cheap. But Luigi Cozzi did like he put a sense of wonder into Hercules, which helps makes it stand out. Like yes, the special effects are poor, but like at the same time, as he stated in the documentary, Electric Boogaloo, that if you have a sense of wonder about the special effects, it doesn't matter. And there are times where it does matter and it doesn't matter in Hercules, but again, Lou Ferrigno did put all his might and effort into this movie. Like he literally went on a bodybuilding regime just to look the part, but again, he's held back by his voice being damaged by a speech impairment. And
Yeah.
then had Lou Ferrigno not been born deaf or had any other serious disability, um, he could have actually joined the ranks of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone and done more A grade Hollywood blockbuster movies, but again, that didn't happen. And he basically made more movies in Italy where he had his voice dubbed and no one would notice. But eventually, the cat got out of the bag about his voice being dubbed over, and that's why you don't see him acting that much anymore. But anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Until next time.
Yeah. Till next time. Before y'all check out, drop a like, subscribe, follow this channel. We always greatly appreciate it. And just stay tuned for our next review. Later.
Later.